Am I the a-hole for refusing to make my Scylla wedding dress? I, 27M, have loved making stuff since I was a kid, and I've worked with everything from wood to paint to welding and even fabric, which is what this situation concerns. I made my wife's dress since she couldn't find one that fit her style and our budget. It wasn't my first time making clothes, but I certainly wasn't an expert, nor am I now for that matter. However, the dress turned out amazing and everyone complimented it on our wedding day. Most were surprised I was the one who made it, but my Sil, Sarah 25F, was extremely off when she found out. She took my wife aside during the reception to ask if she was really okay marrying a guy who made dresses and apparently made some homophobic remarks. My wife told me all this the day after. Ever since, Sarah has been rather cold to me and treats me like I have the plague. Like she isn't outright mean, but she doesn't talk directly to me aside from pleasantries. It kinda hurts, but whatever. I don't generally see her since she lives in another state. Sarah recently got engaged to her BF of 3 years and asked me to make her a dress. I have made wedding dresses for a few friends and a couple of my wife's cousins, but I don't really want to make one for her. She's offered to pay me for my work, but that's not the issue. It feels like she likes my work but doesn't respect me, hell even disrespects me, for making dresses. I told her this and that I knew about the remarks she made on my wedding day, and she got mad, saying I'm being a dick for holding something that happened years ago over her. I brushed it off, but my wife's family is hounding me about it, saying I shouldn't deny her the dress when I've done it for other family members. I came here though since my dad told me I was being an idiot and to just take the money. My wife supports me no matter what I decide. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my son attend Sil's wedding? I am not white. My husband is. We have 2 kids. This conflict concerns our oldest, Jack 5-yo. My husband has a half-sister, and 23-yo, that he is not very close to. However, she gets along very well with Jack. She sometimes offers to take him on auntie-nephew dates, which I allow as I do trust her. She's great with Jack and he adores her as well. Anne is getting married in a couple of weeks. We were all invited, but my husband couldn't get time off work, and my mother will be visiting that weekend too, so we won't be able to attend. And asked if we could at least let Jack attend and that she and my mill will watch him. I was hesitant, but Anne and my mill told me not to worry about it. I agreed. Then Anne told me that her father will be attending the wedding. I was surprised because she hasn't had contact with him for years, but they reconnected for her wedding. In my opinion, her father isn't a very good person. He's extremely racist and very headstrong about his beliefs. He is also easily convinced by certain kinds of media, and before we even knew he was attending the wedding, my husband showed me his Facebook posts and they were genuinely insane. Lots of generalizations about groups of people and justifying various horrors simply because of a person's skin tone or race. I told Anne that I don't know if my son will be attending anymore. She got what I meant and told me that her dad won't even be able to tell Jack isn't 100% white, so I have nothing to worry about. I mean, yes, my son is white passing, but with the current climate of things, I refuse to risk it. My son will sometimes speak my language and he is not 100% aware that he has to be careful around certain people yet. And got upset and told me that nothing will happen and I'm being paranoid. She even compared my paranoia to her father's. She then told me to think about it rationally, as the venue is a public place filled with people. I apologized and said I can't let him go. She started shouting at me and said I was ruining her wedding. She wants to spend it with everyone she loves, Jack included, and I'm ruining that by being paranoid. She then started crying, I think, before hanging up. My mill called me later saying that she swears nothing will happen to Jack and to please get over it for Anne's happiness. I said no. She told me that she hopes I'm proud of myself for breaking Anne's heart. I do feel bad, and I suppose I am being paranoid. My husband is more hesitant about the decision, but ultimately agreed that we really can't risk anything. Am I the a-hole for expecting my GF to support me while I'm unemployed? I lost my job 4 months ago and A doesn't cover my full living expenses. I had to buy a car since mine had 330,000 kilometers on it and the engine issue was worth fixing. After that I had couple thousand saved and that has been completely wiped out, and now I'm not able to cover all my expenses. I asked my GF to help cover my expenses and she has refused because I didn't propose before this. We had been dating for 3 years and moved in for 2. She had told me 3 dates and she expected to be engaged in about 2 years of dating and is very unhappy with me because I didn't propose. I'm sure she is the one, I'm just still hesitant about marriage, and she has told me she is trying to get over the fact she wasted 3 years with me. I told her to give me some time and she has thankfully not pushed it. This was shortly before my work announced they were cutting people and I was let go. Now she says I'm expecting too much from her since I'm not ready for marriage but expecting her to help me with rent. We have been dating for 3 years, doesn't that count for something? If it was a year and I understand if it was too early, but we have been together for a long time. But she told it was meaningless because I haven't proposed and she refuses to help me, as I could just decide I don't want marriage and bail at any time. I could have bailed at any time while dating and still can bail after we get engaged, but I didn't and I won't. We have been serious for a long time. Why is the ring and marriage all that matters? I've told her since she won't help, it's shown me she isn't serious too, and she told me it's fine, we can just end the lease and I can go back to live with family if I can afford rent here. I'm getting interview requests back and did an interview already, although I didn't get it. It's crazy to me she would waste 3 years over covering a bit more rent and groceries. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for a pushchair for my stepdaughter? My stepdaughter, 20, is pregnant and due in January. My husband and I originally said we would buy the pushchair for her when she was a bit further along, as she is high risk and has had several miscarriages, and we didn't want it to linger as a reminder if the pregnancy failed. She picked the pushchair she wanted and we said we would order it for her this month. A couple of weeks ago I mentioned the pram to her and she asked if her nan had spoken to us about it. I said no and asked what she meant. She then said that she had been shopping with her nan and had found another pram she wanted. This pram was almost exactly the same but was £500 more than the one she told us she wanted from us. I told her that we couldn't afford to spend that much on the pram, and she said that her nan and granddad are putting £100 and the nan on the father's side is putting £100 towards it, and she wanted us to pay the rest. I spoke to my husband following this conversation with her and he said we can't afford it and said he thought we were buying it outright and not just contributing. We have now told her we are not buying that pram for her as we can't afford the amount she wants us to pay, and that the original plan was for us to buy the one she originally chose outright and not just contribute to it. Even with £200 towards it we still can't afford it. She has now called us unreasonable and said we aren't being fair. Am I the a-hole for telling parents not to take their kids trick-or-treating to a certain house? My husband and I have 5 kids between us. He had 2 from a previous relationship, 9 and 13, I have 1, 14, and we have 2 together, 3 and 6. Our 6-year-old is autistic. She is verbal but she doesn't like strangers and doesn't talk to them. I was worried about taking her trick-or-treating, but I know she practiced at school and we practiced the signs candy please and thank you. It was going well at first, then she started to get tired. At one of our last houses, she didn't speak or sign. The woman was handing out goodie bags with king-size candy bars and stickers. She gave one to all of my kids except for my 6-year-old. She ran to me crying and my 14-year-old told me that the woman didn't give her a bag because she wouldn't say trick or treat. I went up and explained that she's autistic and doesn't speak much, but the woman refused to give her anything unless she said trick or treat. After some back and forth, I made the kids give the bags back and we left. I texted a group chat with parents in my daughter's classes, both general ed and special ed, gave them the address, and explained what happened so they wouldn't have to deal with that with their kids. Word spread pretty quickly, so that house was not very popular last night except for some pranks. People even posted about her on Nextdoor. Now she's posting about me and my kids and this whole thing is blown out of proportion. I was wondering if I was wrong for telling parents not to take their kids to her house.